Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya 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 Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Nitai Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaur Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtaterasutta Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Food for Life Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Protector of the Cows Go Raksha Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Thakur Haridas Ki Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Godadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Sri Mayapur Dham Ki, Sri Jagannath Puri Ketra Ki, Sri Dwarka Tirtha Ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Sri Guru Gauranga Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna devotees सब आगे आ जाइए please. So today we are very fortunate that we have His Grace Vaiyasaki Prabhuji amongst us. Hari Bol. So Prabhuji, Ishwar Prabhupada is one of the most glorious disciples who is spreading the glories of the holy name in such a sweet way, in such a melodious way, in such a devotional way that it is actually extraordinary. So Prabhuji met Shri Prabhupada in the 1970s and then he took initiation from him. And then Prabhuji is very expert in especially Bengali kind of kirtans. Prabhuji especially learned all of that, that style of kirtan, the Bengali style of kirtan. And that's why we see, which is so unique in Prabhuji, that he brings that flavor of the Gaudiyas into the kirtan. So that's why we see that his kirtans are so much heart melting and heart touching. So we are so very, very fortunate to have Prabhuji here. Prabhuji has been traveling all across the globe. He has traveled more than 64 countries.
82.
82. I'm sorry, I was not having the updated data. 82 countries. And Prabhuji has also authored books like Radha Damodar Vilas. Such wonderful books are also authored by Prabhuji. So we are fortunate to have Prabhuji. So let's welcome His Grace Vaiyasaki Prabhuji by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So today Prabhuji would be glorifying Sri Rupa Goswami. So we are so blessed to hear about Sri Rupa Goswami from His Grace Vaiyasaki Prabhuji. Harivo! Harivo! Harivo!
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giri Baradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giri Baradhari. Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yashodanandana Jayo Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Brahmachari Jamuna Tira Brahmachari Jamuna Tira Brahmachari Jamuna Tira Brahmachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jai Sri Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Jai Sri Sri Rukmini Dwarkadesha Ki Jai Jai Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Jai Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hare Hari Bo Sorry? No, but we speak starting with You can't change the program and eliminate some. You do both. Both. Okay, you understand that? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Dhamam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam tato jayo mudirayet nashta praye swabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistike Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Bande Sri Gurun Dinotarinam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So before we begin our pravachan, I just want to thank everybody for attending. There's so many things that you could do on a morning, but instead you have chosen to come here to take darshan of Rukmini Dwarkadish and to hear Bhagavad Pat and hear the glories of Sri Rupa Goswami. So for this, you are eternally benefited. Thank you very much. Sorry? Just give me a verse. What's written on here? That's nothing. Okay. Acha. Okay. So we're continuing our study of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which we do daily, and we're reading from the 10th canto, chapter 6, text number 32, the killing of the demon Putana. Krishna shows his greatest mercy by in this Leela where he kills Putana. So let's see what the Bhagavatam has to say. Tavananda dayo gopa maturaya vrajam gata vilokya Putana deham Bhabhuvur ativishmita Tavanandadayo gopa Maturaya vrajam gata Vilokya Putana deham Bhabhuvur atitishmita Tavanandadayo gopa Maturaya vrajam gata Vilokya Putana deham Bhabhuvur ativishmitaha. So, Tavat, in the meantime, Nanda Adaya, headed by Nanda Maharaj, Gopa, all the cowherd men, Mathuraya, from Mathura, Vrajam to Vrindavan, Gata came back, Vilokyu, when they saw Putanadeham, the gigantic body of Putana lying dead. Babhuvu became Ati, very much, Vishmita, struck with wonder. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Meanwhile, all the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, returned from Mathura, and when they saw on the way the gigantic body of Putana lying dead, they were struck with wonder. Srila Prabhupada's purport: Nanda Maharaj's wonder may be understood in various ways. First, the cowherd men had never before seen such a gigantic body in Vrindavan, and therefore they were struck with wonder. Then they began to wonder where such a body had come from, whether it had dropped from the sky, or whether by some mistake, or by the power of some mystic yogini, they had come to some place other than Vrindavan. They could not actually guess what had happened, and therefore they were struck with wonder. So Krishna killed a Putana demon who came in disguise as a beautiful young lady. These asuras, they have Shakti. They don't have Bhakti, but they have Shakti. So she could change her roop, which was very ugly, into something very beautiful. But her natural roop was something very ugly, because what is inside represents what comes outside. So if we're very ugly inside, then we also become ugly outside. But for some short period of time, she was able to have this roop that was beautiful. But she smeared poison on her breast because she came to kill Krishna. So when she knocked on the door of the bhavan of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, and Yashoda Mai came with little baby Gopalji, Nanichor. You say, Nanichor is Bengali. In Hindi, they say Makanchor, right? Then Mother Yashoda was struck with wonder, who is this beautiful young lady? And then Putana said, oh, Mother Yashoda, I have come here to take your darshan. You are the most glorious of all ladies. What pious activities did you perform in your previous lives that you could have such a beautiful son as your Krishna? My life is useless, but if I could hold Krishna in my arms for just one moment, my life would be a success. So Mother Yashoda was thinking, oh, sweet words, nice lady. She said, okay, you can hold my Krishna for one moment. She went like this. And now Putana was thinking, now I shall kill him. So she brought him to her breast for him to take milk. But Krishna sucked out her life air, her prana, and she died. And she expanded into this gigantic, huge, ugly body. But Krishna, Prabhupada, when he gave this talk, I remember what he said. He said, Krishna always takes the bright side. No matter how bad something is, he finds something good. So when she came to give him the poison, Krishna thought, oh, she's approaching me like a mother. So he killed her. but then gave her the benediction. She went back to Vaikuntha. She went back to the spiritual world in that Vatsalya Bhav. This is Krishna. And this is what Rupa Goswami is giving to us, this knowledge, this tattva of Krishna, so that we can understand deeply what is the meaning of bhakti. So when the cowherd men who had been in Mathura came back to Gokul, and they saw this huge body of a demon lying dead, they were struck with wonder. How did this come about? Similarly, we are struck with wonder how Rupa Goswami is so prodigious in his writings, so beautiful in his explanations, that he's giving us Krishna Prema. Just by reading what he has written, tears come to our eyes and we become struck with wonder. And we cannot understand how Rupa Goswami was so empowered that he could write such literature. Don't forget, he didn't have a laptop. He only had palm leaves, and he would write with a ink and a quill very slowly. Can you imagine how much time it takes to do that, to write one book? And he wrote so many. Therefore, we can understand that not one moment was wasted. He was totally fixed, Dridhavrata, in his seva, to explain, to give the tattva to the fallen conditioned souls who would come later in the world. So Rupa Goswami had originally come from a family of South Indian Brahmanas from Karnataka. Of course, that in those days, it wasn't called Karnataka. They had all had different names of the different regions named after the kings. There were the different dynasties of the kings. But for some reason, Rupa and Sanatan's family elders decided to leave that area, and they came to Bengal. Which part of Bengal? East Bengal, not West Bengal. East Bengal, which today is known as Bangladesh. And they settled there in a little village called Bakla Chandradweep. So we know that by having a name, Bakla Chandradweep, that it was surrounded by water. Because you can't live if you don't have water. And he and his brother, who later became Sanatan Goswami, they were so studious, they were so learned, that their fame spread as they were growing up as boys and then youths and young men. And even their fame spread all the way to the seat of the Nawab, because in those days, Bengal was managed and occupied by Musliman. So the Nawab heard about these two brothers who were extraordinarily gifted in intelligence. So he sent for them, and he requested that they become his ministers. But Rupa and Sanatan said, how can we serve you? Because your rule is against, it's adharma, it's against our dharmic principles, it's against Go Raksha. We cannot serve you, it's not possible. And the Nawab, he said, yes, it is possible, because if you don't, I will kill all your family members. What could they do? He was serious. He said, I will send immediately, I will put you in jail and I will slaughter all your family members if you don't agree. So they had to agree. So forcing people is adharma. You know, some religions are spread by force, by the sword. Some medicines are given by force, even when people don't want it. Sisi Rukmini Dwarka Shiki. But I remember one time in a class that I attended when Prabhupada was there, and he spoke, and one of the things he said really stuck out in my mind. He said, love means no force. Where you see force, there is no love. Force means acting against someone's own will, forcing them to do something that do not want to do, which is different than a parent encouraging a child, because there's no force. It's out of love. You're encouraging them, explaining why this is for your benefit. But not that if you don't go to school, I kill you. No, that's not dharma. But the other form of adharma is if you don't convert to this religion, we kill you. So Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they became ministers. But then they heard about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his preaching and his followers. And word came all over Bengal. This great saint is inspiring everyone to give up all pop karma, take up bhakti yoga, and glorify the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Rupa Goswami wrote a letter, and he dispatched that letter with to go to where, with a what do you call it, a delivery person. In those days, what did they call him? A peon. To go to where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was at that time in Jagannath Puri. And in that letter, Rupa Goswami wrote that here we are serving this ruler who is adharmic. He's against cow protection. We are feeling completely in distress, being complicit in this adharmic activity of this ruler, this Muslim ruler. So he wrote this letter, sent it to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Mahaprabhu received this letter, then he wrote another letter and replied. He said, "You are my dear servitors." Well, first of all, I didn't say the whole thing, the letter. They said, "Please come and save us." Rupa Goswami wrote, "Please come and save us from this horrible service that we're forced to do by force of killing our family." So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wrote back, "Yes, I will soon be coming. So what you should do now is you should pretend that you are satisfied in your service to the Nawab, but in your mind you always glorify the Lord Sri Krishna." And he gave an example. Just like a prostitute pretends to have some affection for the man who comes to her, but all she wants is the money. She's only thinking of the money. Mahaprabhu gave that example. So internally, he also gave another example. Just like a woman, a wife who is unchaste, she's serving her husband so nicely, but internally she's always thinking of her paramour, her lover. So he said to them, so you behave like this towards the Nawab, but internally just think of Krishna. Ulta, the reverse. So subsequently they came. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and Rupa and Sanatana Goswami came to see him at night. They took off all their royal vestments, where they were ministers in the king's palace, put on rags, torn dhoti, and came to the camp where Mahaprabhu was sitting. There was a fire there. Brahmanas were sitting around. There was Harikatha going on. They came and they took some straw that they had seen passing along the way, and they put it in their mouth, and they offered Dandavat Pranams to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and says, please save us. We are the most fallen. Why are we the most fallen? Because we are serving the Nawab, who is against the Vedic Dharma, who's against Go Raksha. He's against all the principles that we stand for. Therefore, and we can do nothing about it. Therefore, we are the most fallen. Sometimes people say, I am the most fallen, but they don't say why they're the most fallen. Rupa Goswami said exactly why I'm the most fallen. I'm engaged in this ugra karma to the Nawab. So when the Brahmanas saw that, the humility of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they all went, sadhu, sadhu. And Sri Chaitanya got up and he lifted them up. He said, oh, please, your humility is breaking my heart. Amar bhuk fate jai. My heart cannot tolerate such humility. And he embraced them. He says, you are my eternal servitors, Rup and Sanatan. Because they had even changed their names. The Nawab had given them the names of Sakar Malik and Dabir Kash. So now they became Rup and Sanatan Goswami. Rup Sanatan Goswami ki. So then immediately Rupa Goswami, he was a very austere Brahmana, and all the payment that he had received from his ministerial duties from the Nawab, he had saved. So he had saved a huge amount. So he took 50% of that and he deposited with a favorable Hindu person that he knew in the community. The other 25% he distributed to the Brahmins, and the last 25% he kept aside as an emergency. And then he left that place immediately. Sanatana Goswami, however, was so much involved in the Bhagavatam that he stayed at home and had the Brahmanas associating with him and hearing Bhagavad Gita every day. So then the Nawab, seeing after 2 or 3 days the brothers hadn't come, he sent a messenger. What is the problem? So Sanatana Goswami said, my brother and I are quite ill. We've contacted some illness, so we can't come. So you please don't mind if we try and regain our health. So the messenger went back and he told the Nawab, this is the message from Rupa Goswami, but actually I saw there were so many Brahmins there. They were reading from their scripture. He looked quite healthy to me. So the Nawab became angry and he sent soldiers to grab Sanatana Goswami, brought him and threw him into jail. But Rupa Goswami arranged for someone to visit Sanatana and give a message and saying that such and such person your brother has given a huge sum of money from. So you go and use that money to bribe the jailer to let you go free. So Sanatana spoke intimately to the jailer. We have so much money, so many gold coins. You'll be a rich man. You will no longer have to work in the jail. Because if you're in the jail or you're working in the jail, you're in the same place. It's not very nice. So he, whether you're on this side of the bars or this side of the bars, it's the same place. So the jailer went for it, and he got his money, and Sanatana Goswami went free. So Rupa and Sanatana, they were instructed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Vrindavan and search out the Lupta Krishna Leela Stan. Lupta in Bengali means it's lost. They're lost. You try and find them. Re-establish the glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham in Braj. So that was their seva. Now I remember one time I was studying one of the books of Rupa Goswami, and he was speaking about the 6 principles of surrender. So the first principle of surrender, because Krishna says, Mam ekang sharanam. You surrender, make me, Mam, number 1, ekam, sharanam, surrender. So the first symptom of surrender is you always remember Krishna. The second symptom of, the second instruction for full surrender is never forget Krishna. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. The third instruction was always be confident that the mercy of Krishna will be there for you. And when I read that, I put the book down and I was thinking that I should always be confident that the mercy of Krishna will be there for me. And I began to think, well, that's okay for you to say, Rupa Goswami, but me, I know what's going on in my mind. I know my past karmas. How can I be confident that I'm going to get Krishna's mercy? I can't honestly be confident because I know what's going on. I know who I am. I know what I've done. I want to understand, what do you mean by this? I know that there's a deep meaning. Otherwise, you wouldn't write it. On the surface, it looks like how I can possibly be confident that I will get Krishna's mercy. But there must be a deep meaning. So I prayed to Krishna, please reveal the deep meaning to me. Because Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita that I fulfill everyone's desire. So that was my desire. I want to know. Now Krishna has to fulfill that desire. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajam yaham. As you approach me, I reciprocate accordingly. So I'm approaching with my desire. Please reveal to me the deep meaning of Rupa Goswami's instruction to always be confident that you will get the mercy of Krishna. So, in due course of time, not very long, very short period of time, Krishna revealed to me the deep meaning. And it was in that same shloka, 1866, in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna directed me to that shloka. And the shloka says, Sarva dharman parityaja. Parityaja means give up. Forget all those other dharmas. You don't worry about them. Mamekang sharanam vraja. You just surrender unto me. Sharanam vraja. Mamekang, me, ekam, number 1. Surrender, make me number 1. Vraja. Vraja is a very interesting word, because the Sanskrit word vrajana means touring, going on tirtha parikrama. So vraja means you're going somewhere, specifically on parikrama. Vraja also means mamekang sharanam vraja, surrender and make me number 1, like the residents of Braj have made me number 1 in their lives. There's a double meaning. And when I thought about it, that Vraja means wherever you go, I realized that even if I go from one room to another room, I'm going somewhere. Even if I'm coming from my house to the temple, I'm going somewhere. That's when I realized, by Krishna's mercy, because every realization is given by Krishna, as he says in 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridhi svanjivishto mata smritir jnanam. He is giving. So the deep meaning was that Vraja means every step I take. Because when you go somewhere, you're taking steps. So every step you take, you make Krishna number 1 and surrender to that. Now it's even more difficult. I was thinking, how can I be now confident that I'm going to get Krishna's mercy? Every step I take, I have to be meditating on Krishna. How is it possible for me with my chanchal man and my past karma, being born in Mlecha Desh, and living adharmic principles until I met Srila Prabhupada? But Krishna, in that shloka, he says, if you do those things for me, I will do these things for you. Ahang twang sarva papebhyo. I will take away all your pap karmas. You won't have any left. mokshayishyami, and I will deliver you back home, back to Godhead, back to Goloka Vrindavan. Ma suchaha, don't worry about it. Don't have any fear. In other words, don't doubt. Now, when Krishna says, don't worry, don't fear, don't have doubt, what does he really mean? He means, because that's a negative way of explaining something. Because Arjuna had doubts in the beginning. He had fear. My hand is shaking. My Gandiva bow is slipping from my hand. My memory is lost. I've forgotten everything. Krishna says, Masuchaha. He was filled with socham. So Krishna says, Masuchaha. So what Krishna is saying is, don't be afraid. Don't be worried. Trust me. Trust me. Don't have any doubts means trust me. We have to trust Krishna. And then I realized this is what Rupa Goswami meant. That if we trust Krishna, then he will give us all protection. It's not that we have to become qualified to be a perfect Vaishnava. We just have to give him our full shraddha, our full trust. And Krishna will accept that now you can be confident, I will give you all protection. Because he said to Arjuna, declare it loudly, Arjuna, Name Bhakta Pranashyati. My devotee shall never be destroyed. So we have to trust. We have to have shraddha. That's what Rupa Goswami meant. And I remember another class that Prabhupada gave, and he was saying that the disciple must become perfect. Then he said, perfect disciple does not mean perfect like Krishna is perfect. That is not possible. Perfect disciple means that we follow the instructions of parampara, the instructions of Krishna coming through the Guru. We just become living truth. We live the Bhagavad-gita. And that reminds me of another darshan that I had with Prabhupada in Mumbai, where there were many well-to-do ladies and gentlemen attending Prabhupada's discourse on a Sunday. And Prabhupada, there was many of us disciples were also there. But then Prabhupada said to us, he said, so today I will speak in Hindi. So I was thinking, well, I don't understand Hindi. I had only been in India my first year. So I got up to leave, and Prabhupada said, no, you stay. Even though you don't understand the language, the sound vibration is purifying. Now these ladies and gentlemen, they were very educated in Juhu. And so some of them, they asked questions in English, and then Prabhupada responded in English. Prabhupada liked to speak in English because his Guru Maharaj had told him to spread this Dharma in the English-speaking countries. So whenever he saw an opportunity to speak in English, then he took that opportunity. So during the questions and answers, there was some questions and answers in the English language. And then all of a sudden, one man stood up, and everybody looked at him. Obviously, he wanted attention. And he said, Swamiji, I can recite the entire Bhagavad Gita in 1 hour. Very proud. And Prabhupada looked at him and he said, that's all right, but can you live the Bhagavad Gita for 1 hour? Can you live the Bhagavad Gita for 1 hour? So we have to live the Bhagavad Gita. That's called Shraddha, trusting Krishna's words. And that's what Rupa Goswami meant, to be confident that Krishna's mercy is there for you, because he says, Name Bhakta Pranashyati, and he says, trust me. And if we're not confident, then we don't trust Krishna. We don't have Shraddha. We don't believe. And then I realized this is our real problem. We don't trust Krishna. A little bit more and more as we make advancement, but there's doubts. And we're attracted by Maya and this and that, so many things. But as we chant the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, these doubts diminish more and more. And the Shraddha, that full trust in Krishna, increases more and more. So that moment to moment to moment, we are living the Bhagavad-gita. Not just live the Bhagavad-gita for 1 hour in the morning program, but all day, 24 hours, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. We have to live the Bhagavad-gita. And this way we become living truth. Every thought I think, every word I speak, and every act that I perform is in 100% consonance with Bhagavad-gita, with the teachings of Krishna and the Parampara. That means living truth. And then I am empowered from within, by Paramatma. I'm empowered to do the impossible. For me to sit here and give Bhagavat Pat and speak about the glories of the holy name and Rupa Goswami would have seemed impossible 50 years ago when I first came to spiritual life, to yoga, bhakti yoga. I could never conceive of such a thing. But now, by the mercy of Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij, Guru Krishna Prasade Pai. By the mercy of Guru, you get Krishna. And the devotional creeper is planted in the heart, and it grows and grows. And the watering process is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Of course, Padasevanam, all these others, Archanam, Vandanam, that's also the watering process. And so we actually come to Dasyam, Shakyam, and Atmanivedanam. But we don't have to actually come to Atmanivedanam. That is the topmost position. Parikshit Maharaj, for example, all he did was Shravanam. He attained perfection only through Shravanam and in 7 days. 7 days of perfect Shravanam. He asked a few questions to get full understanding, but he was just listening. And he attained perfection in 7 days only. So the Shravanam is the most important thing. Now in Bhagavad-gita, Krishna explains to Arjuna that in order to be successful in spiritual life, you have to control the mind. And Krishna is speaking about controlling the mind. And then Arjuna says, you know, Krishna, it's all right for you to say control the mind, but I'll tell you the truth. It's easier for me to control the wind than it is to control the mind. That's what Arjuna said. How many people agree with Arjuna? But Krishna did not agree. He said, no doubt it's not easy, but it can be done. And then Krishna in the next shloka describes how it can be done. By suitable practice, abhyas, by suitable practice and renunciation. Right. Suitable practice and renunciation. So then Prabhupada explains everything in that purport. He says that the suitable practice is chanting Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and doing Krishna Seva according to the principles of Bhakti Yoga. And the renunciation, Prabhupada says, is you become attached to Krishna. Krishna Nam, Krishna Gun, Krishna Leela, Krishna Parshad, Krishna Shiksha, everything to do with Krishna, you become attached. You engage your eyes in seeing the Lord. You engage the tongue in glorifying the Lord. You engage the stomach in receiving the Mahaprasad, remnants of the Lord. You engage all the senses in Krishna Seva. So that's how you become renounced. You become so attached to everything in Krishna consciousness that you're no longer interested in the Maya. You lose the taste. Just like I give the example that we may be cooking in the best stainless steel pots in the kitchen. And I'm very attached. I have the best pots money can buy. But if someone comes and says, look, you give me all your pots and I will replace them with golden pots, every pot pure gold. Immediately he loses that attachment for the stainless steel. Take my steel, give me the gold. Is it not? And why is that? Because he knows the value of gold. And if we understood the value of the holy name, we would immediately give up all mundane material desires. But we don't fully understand the value of Bhakti Yoga and Mahamantra. That's our problem. So, when we take to this process sincerely, we should be convinced, Name Bhakta Pranachati. Why? Because we trust Krishna. Just like I may want to do business with some person. They say, you give me so much money and I will do this for you. If you don't trust him, you won't give the money. But if you have trust, you'll give the money. And then he does what he does and you get your return. That's called trust. We have to trust Krishna. If there's any doubt, then we don't have trust. Prabhupada over and over and over again, he says, Bhakti Yoga is all about love and trust. If you can't trust Krishna, who can you trust? If you can't trust Rupa Goswami, who can you trust? If you can't trust Srila Prabhupada, who can you trust? So let's trust Krishna. And I remember a darshan that Srila Prabhupada gave in February 1975. And Prabhupada was so humble. He spoke so humbly at this darshan. I'm just going to make this one last point and then I'll bring the discussion to a close. He said, so my Guru Maharaj ordered me to spread the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna in the English-speaking countries of the Western world. But actually, Bhaktisiddhanta didn't give an order. He only said, if you get a chance, you speak in English. And if you're able to. It was a conditional thing, if it's possible. But Prabhupada's Shraddha in his Guru was so strong, he took it as, he ordered me, because he could understand, this is the heart and soul. This is the desire of my Guru Maharaj. So whatever is his desire is my order. So Prabhupada was convinced that he would take up this seva, going to the Western countries as his life and soul. So Prabhupada said, he ordered me to preach in the Western countries. Then he said, but I am an old man. What can an old man do? And I was thinking, wow, Prabhupada's so humble. Look what he's done. And he's saying, what can an old man do? And then Prabhupada said, but my Guru Maharaj was so kind upon me that he sent all of you, American boys and girls, to help me. And now I'm very happy to say that Lord Chaitanya's mission is in the right hands. And he went like this. Lord Chaitanya's mission's in the right hands. And we were all looking around at each other. Whose hands are the right hands? No one was thinking my hands are the right hands. But Prabhupada was thinking like that. He was so humble, he gave the credit to his disciples. He didn't take credit for himself. And then he said, if I have any credit, if I have any credit, he said, it is only one thing. That I delivered to you the message of the parampara coming from Sri Krishna. To you, each and every one of you, without adding, without subtracting, without changing any word. I gave it to you as it is. And then he gave an example of a postman. The government sends a letter to one of the citizens, and the postman delivers the letter from the government to the citizen. He doesn't open up the letter, change any words or anything. He delivers it as it is. And so Prabhupada's delivering the message of the supreme government, Krishna, to us as it is. So we have to have that Shraddha. And when we have that Shraddha, then we can follow exactly what Rupa Goswami said. We can now be confident that the Lord's mercy will be for me. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. So just that one instruction from Rupa Goswami caused me to have so much understanding and to get so much mercy, because I really wanted to understand. So if there's anything in your life that you really want to understand, you want to make advancement, just have a heart-to-heart talk with Krishna, because he fulfills all desires. Just tell him, this is what I want to know. This is what I'm having a problem with. Please help me. I did a Bhagavad Path in Punjabi Bagh yesterday. So after the class, many people came to see me, and then at the end, one young lady came to see me. And she said, I'm now of marriageable age, and I have to find the right match. Someone who's a dharmic, but also has the ability to support a family, to feed, clothe, and educate the family. How can I do such a thing? So I said to her, you don't know who your future husband will be. But Krishna knows. He knows everything. So you pray. I told her to pray like this, my dear Lord Krishna, soon I will have to go to my Vivaha Yagya. But I don't know now who that man will be. But you know. So you please guide me to that right man. So she was so happy to hear that. Now all her worries were finished. She prayed to Krishna, and he would take over and guide her, so she wouldn't get the wrong match, but the correct match. So this is what we all have to do, take shelter of Krishna, and be convinced the mercy for Krishna is always there for us. Srila Rupa Goswami ki! Srila Prabhupada ki! Any prashna? Yes. Give microphone to the prashnakari.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Guruji. Thank
Hare
you very
Krishna.
much for such a enthusiastic, wonderful and inspiring Srimad-Bhagavatam class on Sri Rupa Goswami as well as on Putna, and you shared many beautiful things from the teaching of Sri Rupa Goswami. So it's not a question, it's just maybe some personal thing I want to ask from you, that how at this age, means even after spending so many you have spent so many years in Krishna consciousness, you have such a high level of enthusiasm and high level of energy. Means when you are doing the Guru Puja Kirtan and giving the Bhagavatam class, performing the Kirtan, giving the examples, I was just consigning maybe if we combine the enthusiasm of all of us at this age, young age, we are around 30s, we all have had no match actually. We have no match, but at the higher ages, you are standing and you're still filled with a lot of enthusiasm. So what were your practices and how was your journey on this last 50 years, due to which you are inspiring all of us, Guruji?
Okay, everybody understand the question? It is no secret. You know, Arjuna, he was feeling helpless. He saw on the opposite side Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, and they were outnumbered. They had so many more in their army than Arjuna's army. So he was thinking, this is impossible. I don't want to get involved in this. But Krishna spoke to him, and in the end, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. In Bhagavad-gita 1872. So Krishna, after speaking and Arjuna asking so many questions, Krishna giving so many answers, finally at the very end, Krishna asks a question. And he says, so, my dear Arjuna, have you heard what I have spoken with an attentive mind? Are you now prepared to act according to my instructions? And Arjuna says, yes, I have heard everything you've said. I am now filled with confidence. I am prepared to act according to your instruction. You just tell me what to do. And Prabhupada said, this is the meaning of Gita, following in the understanding of Arjuna. If we have the same understanding as Arjuna, then we have understood Gita. If we have different understanding, we have not understood Gita. So Krishna empowered Arjuna. Now let's look at Srila Prabhupada. He tried so hard for many years to come to the West, but there were so many obstacles, mostly from the government. In those days, in the 60s, it was very difficult to get passport. You had to get what's called a P form. You had to get sponsorship. You had to get passage. Everything had to be there first before they would allow you to leave the country. Prabhupada prayed to Krishna, I want to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. So Krishna arranged it. However, at the age of 69, Prabhupada was quite elderly, and what people don't know, he was also quite ill. He was not even in good health. At an elderly age and in very poor health, he set out alone to fulfill the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And how do we know how poor his health was? Within the first 10 days, he had 2 heart attacks on the boat, on the ship, on the Jalduta. You don't have heart attacks when you're in good health. So he was in poor health. And he was just one man. What can one man do? But Krishna empowered him. And he spread it all over the world. And there are so many examples. What does it mean for us? It means that Krishna will also empower us, if that is your desire. Make that your desire. Krishna, I want to be empowered by you so that I can be your representative in this world, that I can be the pen in your hand by which you write the history of how Dwarka became the first Krishna conscious city in India. Dwarka, Delhi, I'm talking about. To make this area fully Krishna conscious. You empower me to do that. Krishna will fulfill your desire. Now, I'm going to give you another hint. To guarantee that Krishna will empower you, because I may still have a doubt. To guarantee it, this is what you do. You come to Krishna and you pray that this is my desire. I want to be empowered by you so I can make all the residents in this neighborhood fully Krishna conscious. But before you do that, I want to do something for you. I want to do something for you. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do whatever it is you're going to do. You just tell Krishna what you will do for him. So you do something for Krishna first, then yeyatamam prapadyante. He has to reciprocate. He says that. As you approach me, I will reciprocate. You do for Krishna something first. Maybe you go out and distribute 100 Bhagavad-gitas. Then Krishna now has to empower you. Because it's reciprocation. This is what he says. So we're getting the double Shakti. Number one, he fulfills all your desires. And number two, as you approach him, he reciprocates accordingly. You understand? This is how you can become the next Acharya in your line. Whatever your line is. And every one of us should be the next Acharya, because that's how the parampara goes on. It should not stop at me. You understand? The parampara has to continue. Not that it comes to me and it dies. No. You understand? It's clear? Clear? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. And another important seva that we have to do and be very mindful about, we have to understand Krishna Tattva. For example, the next seva we're going to do is Mahaprasad Seva. Now, how am I approaching Mahaprasad? If I'm approaching it as just some tasty Indian preparations, then the Mahaprasad will reciprocate as tasty Indian preparations. But if you approach Mahaprasad as, this is Krishna, this is the taste of Krishna. And this I learned from Prabhupada. When he honored Mahaprasad, he was tasting Krishna. He knew that the Mahaprasad was non-different than Krishna. So when you leave the temple room, you're taking darshan of the Lord, but when you leave, that darshan's over. That seva, as not a long-lasting seva. When I take Mahaprasad, I do that seva, and I take Mahaprasad. When I leave, that benefit goes with me. The Mahaprasad's still in my tummy. It becomes digested, becomes part of my body. It stays with me. And then we chant the Maha Mantra. And this we should be learning to do 24 hours. Just like when the Kaviraj came to see Prabhupada in the last days. Well, let me see, what is your disease? So he was going like this. And then he turned around to the Vaishnavas who were there, the guru, the sannyasis, I mean, and the GBC men. He says, what I'm feeling in Prabhupada's pulse is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Prabhupada was chanting 24 hours, because even when he was asleep, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I hope that answers your question, how to be empowered by Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So we are very grateful and very thankful to Vaiyasaki Prabhu. Prabhuji is now 78 years old, and we are, maybe most of us are from 50 or 60. Prabhuji is 78 and so enthusiastic, as Rupanuga Prabhu mentioned. So we are very grateful that Prabhuji, please again and again come here and bless us with your association. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.